we come now to item number 5, which is public input, and I've received 2 requests. We've accepted both of those, and the first request is from Viv Beck from Heart of the City, known to all of us, and just to talk about the impact of COVID-19 in the city centre area. I'm going to be pretty strict about keeping to time on the public inputs, and also, just there'll be just up to 3 questions. Otherwise, we've got a fairly large agenda, and I don't want to drag it on through the lunch period, particularly for those of us that aren't near our kitchens. So, Viv, are you on the line? Just waiting for Viv to come in, if she's on the line.
I am here.
Oh, good, great. Viv, the floor is yours, and for 5 minutes. Thank you for joining with us.
Pain and anxiety.
Sorry, Viv, you're cutting out periodically. Let's just keep going for a couple of minutes. Maybe it will come right. If it doesn't, we might come back to you and just try and see if we can get you in by phone. I presume you're on Skype, are you?
I am, yes.
Okay, try it again. It might work this time.
Every person in this meeting will know how much pain and anxiety there is across Auckland. The reason
Viv, you're still cutting out. Can I just make a first suggestion? If you close down the video and just do it on audio, okay, that might make it better. Let's try it at that.
Is that better?
It is so far. let's give it a run.
Okay, Morena. Every person in this meeting will know how much pain and anxiety there is across Auckland right now. The reason I've asked for time today is that there is a risk that may not be high on your radar that I'd like to bring to your attention on behalf of Heart of the City, but also the Auckland City Centre Advisory Board. The world over, people have been gravitating to cities, and we're building a city centre that is geared to a lot of people: international tourists, students, large-scale events, residential growth 6 times the rate of Auckland, and a growth trajectory of workers that is also well ahead of the rest of the region. Only a few short weeks ago, we were awaiting the first of our big new developments to open, and we counted more than 50 events to attract a wide variety of Aucklanders in to enjoy. Now we face the biggest health, economic and social shock of our lifetimes, which threatens the fundamentals of what we are building. Even before the lockdown, we could see the devastating impact of slashed foot traffic on tourism, hospitality, retail, the arts and other customer-facing sectors. Imagine the impact on a place built for lots of people, without international tourists, with students e-learning, people working from home, business closures, job losses, vacant tenancies, nervousness with public transport and more vulnerable people on the street. And it won't just impact the city centre. Currently about $100 million of rates a year is allocated from the city centre to the region. The worst case scenario is grim and here because challenges the city centre benefits and quality. A skilled group of people in the impacted sectors of the city centre to offer our advice this crisis into an opportunity to effectively bring the future forward and to create a distinct, attractive place that showcases our heritage and unique qualities that people will want to visit and spend time in, even if there are fewer people around for some time to come. We have a city centre master plan that now includes the Waterfront Plan. We support this plan and we will be reassessing priorities for both the master plan and the city centre targeted rate funding so we can advise council on this. In the interim, while we are concerned about the concept of assessing shovel-ready projects without a clear framework, we have identified 5 key projects that we advise are fast-tracked. Firstly, the completion of the City Rail Link as fast as humanly possible. This will enable Aucklanders to access the city centre easily and bring foot traffic. Number 2, completion of the NZICC as fast as possible. This is a point of difference for Auckland, and once international travel resumes, it will be an attractor, bearing in mind that New Zealand's reputation is likely to stay strong. Number 3, access for everyone. This is a transformative concept that will ensure essential access, improve public amenity, and capitalise on the improved air quality through the lockdown, and provide space for physical distancing, which is likely to be needed for some time to come. Lighter, quicker trials can be introduced much more easily and less disruptively than large-scale construction projects. Number 4, to ensure improved Queen Street Valley is maintained. Number 5, temporary cycleways. While Aucklanders were embracing public transport, and it's come through quite strongly in research and the numbers, we must accept that physical distancing will be needed for some time, and providing safe access for cyclists and micro-mobility like scooters will encourage access. I'm talking fast because I've got 2 more quick points. The first one is that the waterfront is a preferred destination for Aucklanders. It comes through our research consistently. ACAB has advocated for the land occupied by the port to be included in the master plan, so we have a vision for this prime land that finally settles where things like a cultural centre will sit. We believe this becomes more important now as we consider how we will attract people to our city centre in future, and we would like to see this work start. And the final point is that right now, the survival of businesses in the city centre and across Auckland, but speaking from a point of view of a place that is built for a lot of people, the survival of businesses in the city centre is vital, so there is a sound economic framework to build from. We ask that Council works collaboratively with groups like ours to achieve a much stronger result than will come from decision making in isolation. The City Centre Master Plan and Access for Everyone has actually used these principles previously. We'd like to see a co-design approach with bold lateral thinking to ensure the right actions are taken now to adapt to what will be a different city centre in future.
Thanks, Viv. We got most of that. Some of it cut out, but the one that was vital was you talked about 5 key projects and you cut out during Project 4. Could you just repeat for everybody what Project 4 was, please?
Electric buses to ensure improved air quality in the Queen Street Valley is maintained.
Great. I'm glad I got you to repeat that. That's something we're all in favour of. Thank you very much for that presentation. Now, for councillors wanting to ask questions, can you please just identify yourself by name? And we've got up to 3 questions if councillors have any questions. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if there's any clarification you need, I'll take questions now.
Can I ask a question? Are you asking?
Yep, I am indeed, and I was waiting for the local board councillor to jump up first. Yeah. Councillor Pipaku.
Kia ora, Viv. Thank you for presenting, and appreciate the challenge of doing this over Skype, but great that you've been able to join us today. I just wondered if you're, of course, also the chair of the Auckland City Centre Advisory Board, and if the list that you've identified of Heart of the City is also aligned with the ACAB view of the way forward, and if there's anything you just wanted to highlight as chair of ACAB. Thank you.
I'm sorry if you haven't been able to hear me very well, but yes, that list has come from an advisory board meeting late yesterday afternoon.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Okay, if not, Viv, thank you very much for that presentation. Very clear, very succinct, and we wish you the best for Easter safely at home. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Right. I've got a motion now, and I'll ask Pippa Coombe to move it that we receive the public input and thank Viv for her attendance. Moved by Pippa, seconded by. Got a seconder there.
Richard.
By Richard Hills.
Thank you.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No. Carried. Now, just to check that the second request is from Chair Zero, and just to check that we've got David Robinson and Pranaya Thaka on the phone. Pranaya and David, are you there?
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear David.
I'm here too. I'm Pranaya.
And can you see me now?
Yep, I can see you now. If you cut out, I'll get you to turn your video off. But at the moment, you're coming through loud and clear. So
Awesome.
Same rules as before. 5 minutes and then up to 3 questions if there are questions.
Yeah. And Pranaya might share his screen with you guys just because we've got a small slideshow. Pranaya, is that working?
I'm now sharing it. Is it visible?
You should be sharing a screen.
I've got David on it. No, but just the main thing is we can hear you.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get started then, and Pranay can come in if he has to. Cool. So thank you for having us, everyone. As you might know already, National Youth-led is on climate change, sustainability, and equity. And today we're here to talk about what our recovery can look like in the face of climate change and the pandemic. So in terms of our vision, what does Auckland look like post-COVID-19 with climate change at the forefront? And obviously we're focused on the immediate situation and recovery from COVID-19, but climate change isn't going away. On the contrary, with these infrastructure projects, we've got the opportunity to steer our infrastructure, our employment, and our economy towards a resilient and thriving zero carbon tamaki makaurau. So what might decision criteria look like for going forward with these projects? So the government and the council have already committed to climate action with the Zero Carbon Act, the Climate Emergency, and the Auckland Climate Action Framework. So without exception, every project the council bids for should reflect this. The second key point is that upholding Te Tiriti o Waitangi and fulfilling the needs of communities is key. We need this financial stimulus now, but it cannot violate Te Tiriti articles or anything like that. The third point is that we need to prioritise low emissions transport that connects our city, and we should be promoting public and active transport at the forefront of this push. And the last point here in terms of our criteria is that we should be providing green jobs and economic opportunity. So green jobs, by and large, provide more jobs per $1 million invested than things like roads. The same goes for public transport. And just to move on to what our top projects will be in the council's bid, the first one will be new funding to fast track the second and third stages of Amity, or the Eastern Busway. It's already in progress. It can create jobs, even more jobs. It reduces car dependency in East Auckland and reduces emissions at once. The second point will be pushing for Auckland cycleways, which have been delayed or cancelled due to a lack of funding. This includes Cook Street, where a cyclist was almost killed last week, Parnell, Glen Innes, and so on. We've seen cycling gain massive popularity during this pandemic, and we want to solidify this as our new normal. Our next project will be committing to establishing a charging network across the city for our bus fleet as we move to electrify it. And just the 3 more projects here, we understand that they're funded through the central government, but the council still has a role in advocating for them. They include light rail from the airport, or rather from the city centre to Mangere, Northwestern Rapid Transport System, ideally light rail, but a busway in the short term, and the 4th main trunk rail line to Whitty, constructed at the same time as the third to save costs. So just wrapping things up very quickly, this is a great opportunity for climate change or climate action, economic stimulus, and acquiring more funding from the central government. As young people, we want to see action on climate change, leadership, and a pandemic is no excuse to push it aside. If you don't show leadership here, it should be obvious. This will be reflected in who we vote for and how often we protest in the street. But by advocating for the projects that we've listed above, you guys have the chance to transform our city into, a healthy, prosperous and thriving tamaki makaurau, the one that we deserve. Thank you. Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. Seeing your presentation. Very good.
My mic wasn't on. Sorry, did you miss that, David and Pranaya?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear.
It's for your sake, so I'll repeat it. Thank you very much. Very clear, very succinct presentation, and the priorities that you've chosen in your projects are all projects that we are pushing for here, and the ones that are nationally funded were part of my earlier press statement. They may not fit the shovel-ready 6-month definition, but they're things that need to go ahead as well. So I'll just see if there are any questions now, and I welcome to the meeting Josephine Bartley and Chris Darby who have joined us from their Select Committee presentation.
Morena, Chair.
Questions first.
Richard Hills here.
Richard?
Yeah, thank you so much to both of you for presenting to us. I guess my question is, and a lot of focus seems to have bubbled up around jobs versus climate, where I see they're the same thing. You can get jobs out of busways, cycling and rail. But what do you both say or think to how we should be prioritising things and how you see the jobs from climate-ready projects?
Sure. So can you still hear me, by the way? Just checking.
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
Awesome. So in our view, it's not binary. It's kind of a false dichotomy to say you either save the economy, produce more jobs, or you help the climate. As we said before, doing green projects and actually creates more jobs per million invested than building roads, for example. And it's more equitable because it gives people more options and forcing everyone to drive a car, which we're doing if we continue to push the roads. And just to expand that very quickly, it's a bit like in Australia, where they're pushing for a coal mine for 6,000 jobs, but that'll be at the expense of 60,000 jobs for the Great Barrier Reef. And our economy depends on agriculture and tourism. So in a way, which depends on the environment. So why would we be pushing for infrastructure projects which hurt the environment and hurt our two biggest industries?
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, it's Linda Cooper here. Thank you very much. A really good spread of projects which meet those priorities you talk about. With the Northwestern Busway or light rail, in ATAP that was to be paid for fully by the government, but now that's been pulled back from, and a Northwestern Busway suggested it's actually government are asking the council to pay for some of it. So what would your view be then in terms of, if it's not just advocacy now, we're expected to stump up with some money, what would your view be then?
I wasn't too familiar with this development, but I think it's still, the project doesn't lose any of its importance. It's not going to change the fact that we're seeing massive intensification and growth in Western Auckland. So those needs still need to be met regardless of where the money's coming from at the end of the day.
So it was just my question around, you've put it under advocacy because it was not funded by council. That's what I mean, sorry.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware that it was. So you're saying that in reality it is actually funded, or the government's asking the council to fund it? That's
the expectation from NZTA, that there's a resiling from the agreement we had because it would change to a busway, rather than the promise of having it actually paid for fully, because we were told to be paid for fully if we adopted the petrol tax. But now, because it's not going to be light rail in the short term, we're told we have to pay. So that's what I mean. I think that's it. Just, it would be really good from Generation Zero to be going, well, actually, maybe this could be still fully paid for by government, not expected the council to pay.
Sure.
That's all.
I think the point's been made. It's a statement and I think a request for Gen Zero to advocate for it. I'll take the third and last question from Deputy Mayor Bill Cashmore.
Thanks for the presentation, guys. It was always good to hear from Gen Zero. My question is really around the economy, and I'm glad you said that the economy and the environment go hand in hand, because that's absolutely true. It's fundamentally understood by virtually everybody now. My question relates to, given that New Zealand is an exporting nation, we have to export. We can't have a circular economy inside New Zealand. It's just too small. So as a nation, to provide our standard of living, the things we need, we export. Would Generation Zero also support the fact that we do need a roading network around New Zealand to provide access to those exports to get to port? And if such a roading network was to be provided, what does Generation think about a form of charging, smart road user charging systems to promote and free up roading for commercial traffic, tradespeople set for at the expense of single occupancy or multiple occupancy cars?
Thanks for the question. You're right on the money about us needing a network to get around our freight to ship off to other countries. but it's worth looking at, considering that congestion pricing and that kind of schemes that you're looking at are kind of trying to make the best out of the worst situation. In reality, those freight operations should be happening by rail, which we have the capacity for and which we can invest in and which save us emissions. Whereas the wider cost and maintenance of road they're enormous in terms of road maintenance, in terms of displacing people. It makes all the sense in the world to move towards something like rail to transport freight around the country.
Thank you very much for
Thank
that.
you.
I'll ask Councillor Richard Hills to move and Linda Cooper to
Thank you.
second that we receive the public input, and thank Gen Zero for your attendance. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 No.
Aye.
Carried. Thanks very much to David and Pranaya. And we'll move now to item number 6 of the agenda, local board input. None indicated. Extraordinary items. I haven't been advised of any extraordinary items, which takes us to item number 8, our